Hello, welcome back to Coach's Corner. Today we're going to be looking at a series between the Boston Knight Riders and the Rochester Whiteout. This was Boston's season opener and Rochester Whiteout's second series. We're going to look at a few ways that the Boston offense attacked the Rochester defense's sets. They threw a couple different sets at them, and hopefully we'll be able to look at some of the things that the Boston offense did right against these defenses. And also a few of the things that Rochester could have improved upon the way they played those defenses. So coming into the series, Rochester played a series, as we mentioned, against Washington. And in that series, they were showing a lot of a 2-2 zone set. It's, I think, what Boston had prepped for them to come out for in this series, and it isn't what we ended up seeing. So let's talk a little bit about a 2-2 zone defense. So in a 2-2 zone, just the real basics, you usually have two players at the hoops guarding there. Two players playing man or playing a floating zone kind of at the top of the zone. If they're in man, they'll be covering kind of the two biggest threats, usually the ball carrier and one of the off-ball players. If they're in zone, they'll kind of be floating around the top and picking up the threats as they come into that area. So why are you playing a 2-2 zone? So a few things. First of all, it's discouraging mid-range shooting. That's extra important in the new MLQ rules. With the more spread out hoops, even more of the longer reaching keepers have trouble defending all three hoops. You've got two players guarding two hoops. It's going to be a lot harder to shoot. Another benefit, they can collapse on strong drivers. So if you're in man and your defenders are scattered to the wind and someone gets in the lane, you've only got the point defender that was covering them. And if the keeper's stepping up, it's going to allow a shot. In a zone, you could have the other player playing man come over for help defense. You can have one of the two keepers step up while stopping a keeper. There's plenty of opportunities to collapse. It also allows your beaters to play more conservatively. Again, we're taking away those mid-range shots. If there's too much of a threat of a mid-range shot, your beaters can't sit too deep under the hoops or it's just going to be a shooting gallery. Here, the added ability of having two keepers kind of takes this away. And finally, it forces passes further from the hoops. Those two defenders are really going to be, that are at the hoops, are really going to have a larger radius of where they can get to a pass than a single defender would. What this means is that it's not as easy to just kind of get someone to make a cut to the outside of one of the two far hoops for a quick pass release goal. Those can be covered a lot more easily. So how are we going to go about hacking a 2-2 zone? So a 2-2 zone is very good at controlling the zones between the two hoops, the three hoops, sorry. So from the outside hoop to the outside hoop. That's because they've got their beaters there, they've got two keepers there, and they've got a point defender there. They have 5 defenders concentrated into that section of the field, no matter where the offensive players are. That makes it very crowded and very difficult to execute in. So the first thing we want to do is get the ball out to the wings. If you think about the space that's being defended, if you're standing at the top of the zone and looking right at the hoops, they're defending everything from hoop to hoop. If you're standing on the wing and looking at the side of the hoops, they're basically only defending that area. The two keepers are almost defending the same area in terms of your horizontal variety. You can make a pass all the way back up to the top. You can make a pass behind, and all those areas are open. So play the ball to the wings. Then you want to spread out your uncovered off-ball options. Obviously, two people can't be covered by default here. Again, attack horizontally, not vertically. If you're coming downhill vertically from basically where a normal ball handler would be to where the hoops are, as we said, a lot of people can collapse on that. If you're attacking horizontally, so with passes coming from the wing, either in front or behind, or even just cuts with the ball from those spots, it's a lot harder for the defense to adjust. And don't settle for mid-range shots unless you force the dual keepers out of position. As we said, it's a lot harder to hit these mid-range shots, and if you're taking them, you're really wasting possessions unless you've already created enough movement to force these dual keepers out of position. So before we talk about this game, let's just take a quick look at kind of what it looks like to run kind of the wrong ways against this 2-2 zone. So this is from the USA-Australia game. This is the beginning of their first game in 2018. We're just going to watch these clips really quickly just to get an idea. But watch how crowded the zone specifically, and I know it's a little zoomed in, but I'll take a look in a second. Specifically between the hoops is, and how hard that makes it for even the best players like Augustine Monroe and Simone Arenz here to go vertically towards the hoops. Even as the beaters are winning, you can see there's just so much crowding. You've got a quaffle player here, keeper here, quaffle player here, and they're all ready to collapse on the first person who decides to drive, which means that even as the beaters are kind of have this chaos, it doesn't matter. I think we're going to see the drive attempt pretty soon. Of course, this is with infinite resets, so no reason for the U.S. to really push it here, but even as the bludgers are on the ground, Monroe can't go into the zone because there's so many quaffle players. Obviously, this Australian defense is also very, very talented at what they do. But no matter the length of the possession, every time the U.S. is looking to drive, bodies, and bodies, and bodies. And that just makes it so that he's going to get wrapped up. And so will his passing option because they're all in the middle there. Very similar on the further possession of the game. You can see beater havoc again, but Australia has so many bodies in the middle of the lane here that it doesn't matter. It's going to end up with a rough pass and a turnover. So, let's see what Boston can do differently against a 2-2 zone here. We'll get into it. This is right at the beginning of game one. Rochester come out in the zone as expected. You see Chaser here, keeper back here. Boston is going to start by bringing it out to the left side. I'm going to have this a little bit in slow motion. Immediately, play from the wings. Here you've got Archibald here, Costa here. This is Dastu here and Mulcahy here. But they're on the wings, and look how that's already crowding in this defense. There's already all of the space up here, and not space back here because Ellie Isaac is covering Grace Dastu. But as they get in here, it's going to force the entire Rochester defense into a small area. They're just going to kind of pass it around. And now, already, so now we're spreading out your off-ball options. So Archibald's going to be in this attacking lane potentially behind the hoops. Mulcahy's looking at the attacking lane over here. And again, all of these players are grouped. And Costa's behind his beaters. And in this case, he's going to get into the lane. And basically, he saw that there was commitment from these chasers. So the only time you want to shoot a mid-range shot against a zone is when you have gotten them out of position. That's what he gets here, and he actually just hit the teardrop right through the hoop. So, pretty simple, easy goal playing from the wing. Next possession, we're going to see more of the same. This time they're going to go down the other wing. And again, we've got a very condensed situation where as Mulcahy's going to get the ball on the wing here and swing to Costa, again, let's see where the Rochester Chasers are. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is what I was talking about. Let's say Archibald has the ball up here, and you've got 2 here and 2 out here. Now this entire area of the field from front all the way to back is being covered. But when you look at here, when the ball's here, and all these players are here, Costa's horizontal options, both behind and in front, are massive. There are giant areas of the field open for attack. In this case, he's going to pop it up to Archibald, who's just going to switch positions with him. And the defense does not really adjust. As you can see, it's a slow reaction here, maybe because of the beaters. But, I mean, I would expect him to be coming over to Costa here. That's probably just a defensive mistake. Costa could get in the lane here, but he's not even going to take that opportunity. Forces all the beaters to play out to him with a pump fake. Back to Archibald. And now, Costa's the open man. He'll set a screen over here. Lysek back here, the defender on him, is going to get in no man's land off of the screen. Mulcahy's going to be open. Costa's going to be open. And now, here's what I said, attack horizontally. Watch all these horizontal runs across the field. Costa's the long one. Mulcahy's the close one. Archibald forces the entire defense to him. Free goal. And just like that, Rochester is forced out of its zone defense for basically the entire rest of the series. And it was really that simple. It was just bringing it to the wing, condensing the defense by doing so, and then attacking from the front or the back. There's plenty of options from there. There's nothing you have to be sold on. You can play it to what works for your team. But the key is to not stay in this middle section of the field. If the ball is between the hoops, it has a lot fewer places to go to attack this zone than it would from over here where Boston is playing it. So, Rochester gets switched into a man defense now. Let's talk about man defenses really quick. So, benefits of man-to-man defense. I mean, it's basically as basic as it gets, so we're not going to spend much time here. You get to cover as many defensive players as you possibly can because you've got one player on every one. It's easier to transition to a hard press if your beaters win out. If you're in a 2-2 zone and your beaters win out and the other team goes to reset, there's going to be uncovered players by the nature of the zone. They're going to be able to pass it to them. They're going to be able to kill some time until their beaters can get back into play. If you're in a man, you can cover basically every player. If your keeper can even find the extra unmarked player, even better. Now you've got everyone covered. Way easier to create that press and potentially get the turnover. And it gets the most value out of your athleticism. If you have an athleticism advantage, you're more physical, you're faster. You want that to be showing all the time. When you have more players sitting in a zone, they're going to get to use their athleticism less. And if they get to use their athleticism less, you're kind of getting in the way of your own benefits. So, those are the benefits of man-to-man. Attacking man-to-man. Key to attacking man-to-man, using screens and handoffs to free up covered players. You can do them on ball, you can do them off balls, just like we were seeing an off-ball screen from Boston on that last play. You want to create numbers advantages like you get naturally in this against the zone because that's going to free you up for the easy passes. Second thing, taking mid-range shots when they're available. This is, again, especially important in MLQ rules. If you're letting this team condense their beaters back because you can't take those shots, even though they're wide open because one keeper can't defend 3 hoops in MLQ, you're just wasting your opportunities. You have to keep a defense fair, especially if they're in a man, by hitting those mid-range shots. And finally, especially in these MLQ rules, drive and dish should be bread and butter. It's really the most basic play to attack a zone. You get into the lane. We've talked about two-hand tackling being so strong at stopping drives for goals, so that's not the option it used to be. But you still have one unmarked player in a man-to-man defense. So get in the lane, force a commitment from the keeper, and dish it to the unmarked player. That's your go-to play against a man-to-man zone. So let's bring it back, and let's see some of the ways that Boston chose to attack man-to-man. So the first one, we'll start. This is in Game 2. And what's important to note here is that right at the beginning of this play, Brian Mulcahy, right over here, is beat out of the play. Boston now only has 3 chasers, which means that everybody should be able to be man-marked. So let's see how they get around this fact. So Costas got the ball up front, dishes it over to Archibald. Right now they're just seeing off a beater press and doing a good job of it. Kramer's able to maintain control, and now Rochester's beaters are ready to be set in the defense. But let's go back really quickly because we missed what happened in the Quaffle game. I'm going to slow it down even a little bit more. The ball goes out to Destu, and this Boston team, first line, loves to work it out to Destu because she's unmarked and it forces adjustments by the defense. In this case, there wasn't an adjustment forced because she was marked because Mulcahy, as we said, was beat out of the play. Here you see Mitch Brown stepping up, Ellie Lysak in the area as well. Looks like she might have been on Archibald. Now, this is not what you want to be necessarily doing against a man-to-man, really keeping all your players clumped. It allows for more help defense, but we're going to see how Boston shifts out of this in a second. So Costa's going to come around. He's going to get a handoff from Destu. And here we see the first mistake made by Rochester. It's right here. Mitch Brown overcommits. He was never going to get much value out of this tackle that he was attempting. Let's bring it back to that. Here we go. He was never going to get much value out of a tackle here because she had passing options, even if she got put into the ground. As long as the ball got out, or even if it dribbled out after she was hit, Boston was going to be fine. He attempts this tackle, and now there's a lot of space. He is out of the play here. He is behind the entire Boston offense. They just got back their one-man advantage from a simple handoff because he overplayed the situation. Now, let's see where it goes from here. So Costa's going to get into this area of the field. And as you can probably see what's starting to happen here. Destu came right off of her flip, made a wheel route, and nobody went with her. Everybody stayed with Costa. This is 1 defender, 2 defenders, 3 defenders. Even if you want to generously say Mitch Brown was with Archibald, everyone went with Costa. And this kind of goes into a key difference, I guess, between man and zone. So against zone, I said you love to be in this area of the field, and there's lots of reasons for that, attacking front back. In man, this is really a dead zone. Think about what Teddy Costa is going to do here. If everybody held their spots, obviously you know what he's going to do here in a second. He can't shoot from here. His drives are going to get swallowed up because even if the keeper steps as help defense, he doesn't have a shot from that angle to punish the keeper for it. This is what I call a dead zone against a man-to-man defense, and he is a 0% threat. But because of the performance he's been having in this series, total overcommitment from every single Rochester defender. So suddenly, what was 3-on-3 plus keeper became 3-on-1 and 2 open players, specifically Das 2. And this is just the simple movement that you should be seeing at the top of every play running MLQ. There's still not enough screens. There's still not enough handoffs. It's not easy to drive anymore against two-hand tackling. And you can see that Boston never gave Rochester a chance to execute a tackle in that play. And Rochester's a pretty good tackling team, but they just put themselves in spots where that wasn't a factor. They were using side-to-side movement to get freedom. Now we'll see another angle that Boston looks to use to attack man defense. And it's going to come largely out of their beater play, especially with bludger control. And it's something I've largely seen from Boston, not necessarily seen from that many other teams. So here we've got the ball on the offensive end. This is game 3, so Boston is attacking to these hoops. Ball's with Das 2 right here. And you can see the Boston beaters already setting up this play by coming down completely separately. Now what we see a lot is that beaters with bludger control want to come down together. They want to force a no bludger situation. But the problem with that is sometimes it's not actually doing enough to create a goal anymore because, again, of the two-arm tackling, the fact that no bludger situations aren't automatic goals anymore. So Boston's going to take another step here. First thing they do is put the ball in Das 2's hands. We talked about this on the last possession. Boston likes to make the other team adjust to the fact that a player that they want to be not marking has the ball on the wing. So what adjustments happened here? Because obviously there's no chaser covering her still. The key adjustment here is that Pat Callanan is forced into this spot. If he's not here, Das 2 can walk in and shoot. Because he's here, there is space on the other side, and this is what Boston is going to look to attack. Dillman literally is able to back Lysek all the way back down to her own hoops just by holding a bludger. Lysek's supposed to be covering Mulcahy here. Now, without a screen, without anything, Boston has created a man advantage. And again, as Das 2 comes further down here, Callanan again is forced to be even more proactive in holding his ground to prevent her from just hitting the lane and taking a shot. Now there's a beater out of position, a chaser out of position, and neither Boston beater has even had to throw a ball yet. Ball goes over to Archibald. He just swings it over to Mulcahy. And now the Rochester defense is in chaos, right? Because Mulcahy is a solid shooter. If he gets 1 or 2 more steps further into this lane, it's a goal. Lysek can't get there in time. As we saw, Dillman just pushed her all the way back under the hoops. And so that makes Callanan have to come full speed across the lane. And that opens up the player that we just said had the ball, Das 2, and a quick zip across. Easy goal. Now we'll see almost the exact same play run a couple seconds later. So again, we see the split beaters. We see the ball on the wing this time to Costa instead of Das 2. Das 2 is going to have to come all the way across. But again, we've got 3 on the right, and we've got all alone this combination of Dillman and Mulcahy. Mulcahy gets the ball, and this time Dillman hasn't even done a beat out because ELK here has actually covered her to try to make an adjustment to this, and that has allowed Callanan to sit a little bit fairer. But even with this, watch how Lysek is forced out of the play here. She forced herself just enough back while Callanan had just enough sense of security that this wasn't going to happen this way. So he's now flat-footed in the middle. There's still only one keeper. You got 2 unmarked players over here. And this time, okay, he says, hey, nobody's in front of me. Nobody's stepping to me. The beater's flat-footed. I'm going to take 3 steps and hit a shot. Free, easy goal, something you're happy to see hit. So let's just do a little bit of refreshing. We saw 2 looks from Rochester, the 2-2 zone and the man-to-man defense. The 2-2 zone got picked apart by going into the corners and attacking both from the front and the back simultaneously, not settling for shots unless the defense had already been broken down. The man-to-man defense, we saw Boston breaking down in 2 ways. One was just with a handoff screen kind of concept that created odd number advantages that they could attack. The second was by using their beaters split with bludger control to beat out chasers with the timing perfect enough to turn that into a man advantage and scoring through it. What could Rochester have done differently in the situations? Well, I mean, the 2-2 zone is a tough thing to run in the current MLQ rules for a lot of the reasons we were talking about. And Rochester seemed to recognize that. Once they knew Boston had a solution for it, they were out of it in a hurry. But in terms of the way the Boston attacked man, one thing Rochester could have done was staying a little bit more composed in their defense. We saw Mitch Brown overcommit on that first play to lead to a goal. The other thing they could do is be more aggressive with their beating. As we saw, Callahan was content to sit under the hoops against bludger control and let those Boston beaters, without throwing a bludger, create havoc in his defense and the way it was set up. I've talked to some top beaters, and a lot of them think the thing you have to do now against bludger control is just make a play for bludger control and trust that your defenders are going to play their defense. They have 2 arms now to tackle with, and you're taking the beaters out and saying, play your ideal defense and make the stop. Make them beat you that way. That's another thing Rochester could have done there. Regardless, they didn't, and Boston did walk away with the sweep. And we will see what more that they can bring in terms of unique offensive looks going forward in the season. Hope you enjoyed the video, and take care. Have a good night.